Ready.
Welcome to episode 37 of the Go Get 'em Agility podcast. My name is Margaret Hughes. I'm your host, along with my daughter, Emma Hughes. Hi, Emma.
Hi.
All right. So I'm very excited for this podcast. I've been working very, very hard with my little dog, Eli, who's now no longer
I was
little.
gonna say he's not that little anymore.
He's not little. Uh, so this podcast is about his reactivity.
Mm.
So if you are following any of my YouTube videos, I was at a seminar or at a workshop, and Eli has sudden environmental contrast reactivity. Something shows up and he kind of freaks out about it, or he did. So anyway, I was in this workshop. He went after a Doberman, and so that was back on like September 27th, 28th, something like that. So it was the end of September, and I immediately started changing how I was addressing his reactivity. And we talked about his triggers a couple podcasts ago. So I want to talk where I've come, what he's done. And first off, I'm extremely proud of how he has matured and taken in our training, and he has, in my opinion, we're going in the correct direction, absolutely in the correct direction. So I want to give you what happened yesterday. Twice yesterday. We had two incidences where in the past he definitely would have barked in both instances. So the first one was in the morning, and I had somebody come over to the field, and the dog and the person were out in the field. And normally if I had come out, either not working him or even keeping him in attention, once he noticed them, he would have barked at him. And yesterday we are approaching the field, and before he could see them, but just as we were about to get around the corner, I told him to look around. And that is my cue to him that something is out there that he's going to notice. And I want him to notice it as well and look back to me. And so I told him, look around right before he was able to see this dog. And he immediately started looking around, noted it, did a little tiny with his cheeks. That's what he does. And it used to be
like a horse.
Yeah, it is. And he's done it since 8 weeks. So that is
so
one of
funny.
his tells that, okay, I'm a little stressed. So that's been one of his tells. But normally he would go. So early on he did cheek puffing, then the cheek puffing turned into barking, and the barking turned into running, chasing, barking. So yesterday I told him to look around. He started looking around. He noticed the dog and the person in the far end of the field, or about midway in our field. He cheek puffed and he looked right back at me. And I'm like, oh, yes. So big reward, good job. But then he immediately was like, okay, well, where are they again? Because they're in his field. Now, he loves the agility field, and he wants to be out there all the time. That would be his, if things go down, open the agility field, he'll run in there. And so we were both on leash, and I entered the agility field, and has had zero reaction on leash. And so I was trying to get his attention, and he figured out it was one of his best friends. He's like, oh no. And then he went into pure play mode, like, oh my gosh, I want to play with you. And so then I was working on, no, can you look at me before I give you permission to go to this dog? Well, so he was on leash, and the other dog kept getting a little closer as I was trying to work his attention. And they finally got to a point where they could actually touch noses. And he was absolutely wonderful, just wonderful on leash skills in saying hello. Just fabulous. I was just thrilled. So anyway, they had a great time. then the second incident happened at agility class that I'm taking. So I'm now the student. And so I got to class and starting to get dark with the daylight savings time change. And I was bringing him out of his crate. And I always tell him I do two things when I bring him out of his crate. The first thing that I do is that I tell him to look around before he actually gets out of the car. So I tell him to look around just what's behind us. And then when he gets out of the car, so my car's low enough that he can put his paws on the back gate with his back feet on the ground. So what I've taught him to do is I've release him out of his crate, and I've taught him to turn around immediately and put his paws back up on the car for a reward. And so he started doing this automatically, but I've cued it with right here. Right here means come back to me. And when we're near the car, it's right here, put your paws here. And so he started doing that automatically, coming out of the car and getting back on. Well, unbeknownst to me, because it was quite dark, and I was trying to video this for a video, which I don't normally do. So the light was on my camera, which, by the way, the video didn't turn out, but it's too dark. I may show it anyway, because you can maybe see highlights. But I told him to turn around, and he took a longer time than normal to come back and put his paws up on the ground. Unbeknownst to me, there was a dog and handler walking behind us. Now, in the past, he would immediately have started barking at them. And yesterday he didn't. So I was really pleased that my telling him to look around is working. And he did come back and put his paws on the car. It just, he went out a little further than he normally does. So he jumps down, turns around, comes back on. Sometimes he does a little shake when he comes out of the crate, and he comes back on. So shaking is a tell. That cheek puffing is a tell that he's just trying to release some energy, or he has some stress that's hitting him. So those were two incidences that a month ago he would have reacted to with barking. So we're going in the right direction.
Good
so
boy.
Let me talk about, do you have any questions? Do you want in on this conversation?
Well, I did have a question. And I don't think that there is an answer because I don't really know it myself. So I always remember when I would see Eli, I would steal him out of your car occasionally, when I came into your classes. And he would kind of freak out a little bit because he didn't know that it was me. And so I would open up the gate to your, not gate, but the back of your car. And he'd go ballistic. He'd be like, "Oh my God, get out of here, go away." And then I'd be like, "Hi, Eli," and he would recognize that it was me, and then he'd be all wiggly and happy. Is there anything that you have been working on for stuff that when you're not there? So like let's say like with your, what is it, environmental change. Maybe there's somebody comes into the backyard, you're not there, and he's at the, back gate fence thing. Have you noticed any difference with that? So if I came up to Eli now in the Subaru, do you think he would still be a little bit worried?
Well, that's a good question. I don't know, because that's a little bit different than sudden environmental contrast. I mean,
It
there
is.
is
It's
an
very common, I think, for dogs to bark in the car at people. But I just mean like,
right.
let's say you're upstairs taking a shower. I come down the stairs. Even when I would come down the stairs into the kitchen, he'd be like, "Oh my God, who are you?"
Oh, so no,
So
I
in the
definitely,
house, in the car, I mean everywhere where you're not there to help him.
I think that I don't know. I don't know the true
Right.
answer
No,
to
it's
that.
hard. It's hard. Yeah.
We'll find out when you come back home. But
Yeah, okay.
my guess is he is getting better.
Because you probably would have heard him too in the house or something.
Yeah, because the other day he didn't bark at Dad coming down,
Oh, good.
and he
Okay.
alerted to him. He stood up. He alerted that there was somebody coming down the hall, but he didn't start barking at him.
Okay.
And then there was another time that Dad also came out. I think I was doing agility training, and Dad came to the gate, and he didn't. He told me that he was there, but he never
Yeah.
started barking at him. So,
Good.
so
Well, that's
yeah,
really
so
good.
and there's definitely some, and I just did a video in week 41, I think, where he did bark at dad doing the garbage.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, and
Yeah.
I've left that reactivity in that video to
Well, he's
show,
not going to be perfect all the time.
right, to show where he
Yeah.
was. And then, um, yeah, I've definitely noticed a change.
Good.
So
Good.
I think when you come home, I think we'll get some better data on how
Yeah.
he's doing with you.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Well, and I have a theory that I don't know is, I'm not, it's not backed by science or anything, but I know that we look very similar. We're the same height, we have the same hair, we have the same face. And I think that sometimes it freaked him out a little bit when he thought it was you and it was me, and he's like, "Oh my God, okay, that's not mom." And then he obviously he knows me, so then he'd go straight to, "Oh, it's Emma. That's great. We love her." But in that a little bit of uncanny valley where he's like, "Oh, you're not mom, but you look like her."
right.
And I think that freaks out not just Eli, but a lot of dogs.
Oh, definitely.
That's
Yeah.
very common.
All right.
But
So let's
we'll see how he goes.
okay. So let's talk about what I've done. The first thing I did, I think I talked about this in the last podcast. I wrote down all the triggers that I could think of, and I added some triggers to the list that at the time when they happened, I didn't think much of them. I didn't think of them as triggers. I just thought of it as normal dog behavior. But looking back, as the behavior progressed and got to the point where I really took notice, the Doberman incident, then I went back and I really analyzed what are his triggers. At what point did he always bark? And could it have been connected to the Doberman incident? And so I took a harder look at that and started working within all those triggers. One, the first thing that I did is I tried to prevent all of those triggers from happening, which isn't always possible, but I really did my best to note when they were going to happen, and either give him distance or start working him and not just letting him be to his own devices on the end of the leash or in the yard or wherever we were. So that was the first thing, is I analyzed all of his trigger points. At what point did he start noticing? What point did he start his cheek puffing? At what point did he alert bark and or charge the fence? And the fence became, in my opinion, the fence or gate became a pretty good indicator of some of the problems that we were having. So that was one. I also went and so at the Zany Agility Camp, I watched Tracy Skellner work a highly, highly focused dog on other dogs. And this dog went through 2 fences to go get another dog. And it was motion based. So it wasn't aggression based, but it was motion based, this chase that this dog had. And I don't know if it would have gotten into a fight if it got to the other dog, but when it did get to the other dog, it did manage to get to the other dog. The other dog turned around and corrected it, and the dog that was chasing backed off. And then both dogs were gathered up. So I was watching Tracy at Zany Camp work with this highly aroused dog with a couple of different things that she did. She did the up and down game. And the up and down game, it comes from Leslie McDivitt, I believe. I can't remember everybody who has designed all these different programs, but Leslie McDivitt, Controlled Unleashed, and then Tracy Skellner, Brain Games. And so I started doing the up and down game. And the up and down game is essentially putting a treat on your shoe and showing the dog. So you go up and down, up and down, up and down. And I would go from one shoe to the other shoe. So I'd use both arms. I'd go right arm to the right toe, left arm to the left toe. And it does 2 things. One, there's some, and I'm not an expert in this area at all. I just used their program. I'm not an expert. But the up and down motion, there's some neurological component of it that helps to bring you back to center.
It's true in chickens. I know that because I read an article about it. You can do the same with chickens and they will calm down. So I wouldn't say that it's impossible for dogs to have that. Anyway.
Well, and I know that there's an up and down or a left leg, right arm crawling motion that babies do that connects them to reading and writing. And so they encourage, if a baby's not crawling, they actually encourage babies to go back and learn how to crawl to create this cross body motion pattern. And so P.S. I attribute all that crawling to your loving English and writing
Oh God.
because you were one of the last kids to walk.
You were getting nervous about it. You're
I
like,
was
oh
getting nervous.
no. Oh
Like, she's
no.
never going to walk. Anyway, you did a ton of crawling. And they say that all that crawling creates these neuron paths for reading and writing. So there you go.
Interesting. I'll bring that up in my next lecture. I'll be like, hey guys,
Put that in your
guess what I learned?
dissertation.
Yeah.
All right, so I started doing the up down game. So whenever we came, first off, I did everything that I'm going to talk about. I did all of it without triggers. Okay, so I just started the process. So we'd be in the house, up down, up down, up down. We'd be in the driveway, up down, up down, up down. So I just do these random up down games everywhere just to get them used to it. Okay, then and I paired that at times, not every time, but I paired that with the 1-2-3 game. So the 1-2-3 game is you count 1, 2, 3, and then on the word 3, you can use ABC, you can use whatever you want. On the word 3, you gave your dog a cookie. Okay, so 3 became the predictor a reward is coming. And so it's best if you look at me because I can put a cookie in your mouth. And so 1, 2, 3, and I would vary how long it took me to get to 3. So sometimes it'd be a little bit quicker. 1, 2, 3, reward. Other times it would be 1, 2, 3, reward. So varying the time of how long it took me to get to 3. But he learned that 3 was a predictor that a reward was coming. So he would start to give his attention to me. So I did all of that without triggers or without a distraction, and then started pairing that on approach of dogs. So when we were approaching a trigger, and he already knew that the trigger was there, right? So now we're doing like passing, we're doing more attention type stuff. Don't keep looking at that dog, but start to reorient to me on 3. So I did that. So up and down game, did the 1, 2, 3 game. Now I had always, one of the other brain game things is, what does she call it? She calls it back and forth game. I've called it the get it game. I've done it since he was 10 weeks old. And that is throwing cheese or something visible that he can see away from me. And then he reorients to me for another one or for something else. So the get it game is just learning to track a cookie away from me, and then as soon as you grab it, your job is to come back. So I would do these get it back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and I pair it in agility. I've paired it with a ton of stuff, verbal discrimination, listening skills. So I'll do a get it and then a jump. I'll do a get it, then back to me. I'll do a get it, and just literally anything. So he's done the get it game forever. She does it slightly different. And what she's looking for is the latency time between when you throw the cookie, the dog gets the cookie, how fast does the dog reorient back to you? And so that's what she's looking at. And what they want is, as soon as the dog gets the cookie, they're reorienting back to you immediately. So there's very little lag time between getting the cookie and coming back to you. Whereas some dogs early on in the training, they will go and find the cookie, then they'll search for more. So they'll think that it's more like a find it game, like there's 10 cookies out there, or a scatter game. There's 20 cookies to go and search for. The get it game is one cookie, highly visible, see it, grab it, come back for more. So started doing the get it game. What was another one? So the up and down, back and forth, 1, 2, 3. Oh, and then my right here. So I started right here. I can't remember if this, I didn't, the car one that I'm doing where they get out of the crate and get back on put his paws back on my car, which has been extremely valuable. Get out of the car, come back to me. I can't remember if I pulled that from Tracy or that just came out of my own head, but definitely wanted him to come out of the crate and then reorient back to me or back to the car. And so I've been doing the right here out of my car, going through openings. So an opening in a doorway, opening in a gate, working, and even just walking when we're walking towards my agility field, he'll be off leash as we're walking that path, either through my garage or through the front door. If he's getting too far and I'm not sure what's up there, I'll do it right here. And that means just come back to me. Just circle back around, come back to me. All right, then the big one. So this is a huge one for me. And it has, I think, been the game changer. And that is, I've taught him the word look around. And look around means literally there's something around us. I want you to notice it and pay attention to that there's a trigger out there, and then reorient back to me, or don't react to it. So he doesn't necessarily need to look back at me, but he has started looking back at me, which has just been a bonus to this game. And he can look around in any fashion. So there's a couple of facets of how he does look around. So the big one is he visibly turns his head and he scans the environment. And sometimes he doesn't quite catch. I can tell over time, I've learned to read when he's actually seen what I'm talking about. And so he learns, I've told him, look around, and that means scan the environment, take notice that there's something out there, and then I will reward you if you look back at me. And it took a while. So when I first started training this, I wanted my trigger at a distance because I knew it would trigger him, right? So there's this balancing of look around, there's something out there, but I had to be far enough away from it that he didn't trigger in a burst of barking. But so I didn't want it to startle him, but I also needed him to see something to make the look around make sense, right? And so I started this look around, and if he didn't look around, I would say look around, and then I would say hello to whatever it was that I knew would trigger him. And that caused him to look, because prior, when I talked, he would look around and see what I was talking to. So I would say, look around. He'd scan. I'd reward him for not reacting. Sometimes he cheek puffed. Sometimes he just looked back at me. But now this behavior is so strong that with or without a trigger around, I can tell him to look around, and he will look away from me and scan the environment, try and find something that makes sense to him, and then back to me. And it has been a game changer, because now I can tell him and that something's out there that may startle him. And now he doesn't, there's been times when I've told him to look around, and it's been more of an ear flick. Like, yeah, I saw it, I hear it. And that ear flick is also an indicator that there's something out there. And so that has really been a fantastic learning tool that I got from Controlled Unleashed, that has been a game changer for him. And he can do it walking, he can do it sitting down, he can do it laying down. We can be approaching the trigger, or the trigger can be approaching him. So it has been an absolute game changer. The other one that's been a game changer, and you made fun of me last time when I mentioned this on the last podcast, is that talking when nobody's there. That has that has been a game changer as well. And so I every time that I knew that, so in our agility field, it was literally anywhere. So I would do it anywhere. Is I would just randomly say hello to people, or hi, how you doing, or whatever. I would just spit words out, and I could see him orient to the place that I was looking. When I would look up, he would orient in that direction as well. And so that has been a game changer as well, that I can now talk to people. And I've had several incidences now where we were training, and an episode that would have caused him to bark in the past hasn't. So I had a student forget something, come back into the agility arena 5 minutes after everybody had left, kind of startled me. I'm like, oh, what are you doing here? And he didn't react at all, which a month and a half ago, he definitely would have barked at him. So definitely seeing progress. He's going to be a year old next Wednesday, the 16th, sorry, Thursday, next Thursday.
That's
so
exciting.
A week from today, he is going to be a year old. And I have seen a massive improvement in him in the last month, and just thrilled. So I just wanted to share my experience. And we're in agility class, and he's not, so we've been in agility class for, I don't know, 7 weeks, I think. And the first agility class, he barked at several people. He reacted out in the parking lot. He reacted in the agility arena. And then the last night, he was absolutely stellar. Again, the dog passed right behind us as he was getting out of his crate, pitch black on that. And it's real ink, dark black. It's really dark out there. So I'm thrilled. I'm absolutely thrilled. I think he's been doing wonderfully. I think that for anybody that has a reactive dog out there, put the time into training them, because I've seen a dent. If you need professional help, there's professional help out there. Main thing is figure out your triggers, work underneath the threshold of those triggers, and build up resiliency to seeing one of your triggers and not reacting to it. Right now, I'm working with a dog that has 0 bite history, that has never actually gotten into a dog fight, has just been barrier frustration, sudden environmental contrast, and reactivity on fence lines. But I know that if I had not addressed it, I know it would have gotten worse. And so don't be afraid to see micro improvements. It's not going to improve in a day. It takes months, weeks to change feelings. And so it's not like sit and stay where you can teach it in a 5-minute session. It is a month long. Look for little incremental steps. Well, Em, you didn't say much, but I appreciate you joining me.
I counted my words. I think it was 16. No, I'm kidding.
All right, Em, happy training. I love you.
Yeah, very exciting. Can't wait to see you soon.
Yes.
And then Eli a little bit longer after that. Of course, Dot reigns over every single instance. So I think about Dottie all the time. Very sad that she's
very
away from
argumentative lately.
Oh.
All right, we got to say woof woof. Say woof woof.
Yeah.
Happy training. Woof woof. I love you.
That was good. I love you too.
Hey, maybe we'll do a podcast while we're together in England.
I think we should.
That would be fun.